Finally, Yosef in Parshas Vayigash reveals himself to his brothers. It's an emotional reunion, to say the least. And now Yosef goes ahead and tells his brothers, go ahead, don't worry about it. I moichel you. And a beautiful pasuk, Vatem, Va'ato le'atem shalachtim oisiyenu. This is not you. This is all hashgacha pratis. Ki holokim shalachtim losena. Ki holokim v'esimenu la'av la'paroi u'ladon l'chol beisai. It's God that put me here. And I've become, as he writes over here, v'esimenu la'av la'paro. I've become Paro's father, u'ladon l'chol beisai, and I'm in charge of his entire house. U'maisheo b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. And I'm ruling all of Egypt. Now, you may be somebody's chief of staff, and I'm sure that if I'm sure Mr. Putin, Yamach Shemai, as a chief of staff, but if that were a guy to say, guess what, I'm in charge of all of Russia, Achas Dasle Loham is one head shorter, okay? You know, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, this was 1981. I remember when Ronald Reagan was shot, okay? And everybody was shaken. And they went back to the White House, and Alexander Haig was then the chief of staff, and he went ahead and said, you know, had a news conference, and he said, I'm in charge here. And everybody jumped on, you're not in charge here. You know, he's the vice president. And you don't say that. So what does it mean? U'maishel b'chol mer Mitzrayim. How did he say that? And the other question is that when the brothers go ahead and they relay this message to Yaakov Avinu, they go ahead and say, Vayidabru Elov es kol divrei Yosef. They come back to Yaakov, the brothers. They tell him everything. Asher dibar aleim. Vayares ha'agolas asher shalach Yosef lotzeis eisai. Vatechi ruach Yaakov avihem. But the truth of the matter is that when they say over who Yosef is, they do not say the rest of this, Adon b'chol beisai, av leparai. All they say is, u'moshel b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. So why do they go ahead? Why don't they go ahead and give the titles? You know, why do they only that one phrase, u'moshel b'chol eretz Mitzrayim? That is the only thing that they tell Yaakov. Then the pasuk says, they tell him this, Vayares ha'galais asher shalach Yosef loseis eisai vatechi ruach Yaakov avim. And then he sees the wagons that Yosef went ahead and sent to him to bring him down, and this whole family to Eretz Mitzrayim. And then vatechi ruach Yaakov avim. And then Yaakov said, oh, he was finally mollified and appeased. And finally, misnachim, comforted, because he saw the wagons. So the truth of the matter is, this is one of the more famous psukim in all of Parshas Vayigash, and every person who ever wrote any sefer on Chumash has a pshat on what this is all about. So the Chassam Sofer says a very beautiful pshat, and he says, the reason they did not tell Yaakov of the different titles that Yosef mentioned is because he was not interested in that. He was only interested in one thing. Is my son still Jewish? He's still a Yid. Has he married a Shiksa? Has he become part of the culture of Mitzrayim? That's the only thing I'm interested in. Not interested that he's Odin, that he's Odin l'chol Mitzrayim. I'm only interested, is he a Yid? And therefore the only words that the brothers have to tell Yosef, which means He rules over Egypt. Egypt does not rule over him. He has not become an Egyptian. He has not sunk to the culture. He has maintained his Yiddishkeit. V'chihu ha-moshel b'chol aretz Mitzrayim. Not Mitzrayim is moshel over him. Not Mitzrayim is conquering him, has conquered him. No, I'm still that Yid. Those are the only words that are interested to Yaakov Avinu. And with this, some Sefer explains why he was so consoled by the fact that he sent the wagons. So I once saw a beautiful mushal to this, and this is from the Dian of Manchester, England. I don't know who that is, but that's where I saw this story. He says, "Ma'aseh shehoya kachoya." There was a family. They had one son. They were from England. They were in England. They raised him from, etc., etc. Anyway, he went off to school and got a job, and he settled in Australia. And here he is in Australia, a young man by himself in Australia. They want to know what's going on for them. What happened to him? So one Friday, he used to call every Erev Shabbos. He called every Shabbos, and he would say, how are you, Baruch Hashem? Never talked about his personal life, never mentioned being married, nothing. So the parents said to him, you know what? We want to visit you. We want to go see how you are you doing this and that. We're going to fly to Australia. At which point the son said, no, don't, that's not necessary. It's easier for me to come to you. I'm younger. It's a long trip. No, I'll come to you. The parents chapped. Why doesn't he want them to come to Australia? Because he's embarrassed of the way his life looks. Wasn't mentioned whether he was married or not married, but he wasn't much of a Yid anymore. So when Yosef says to Yaakov and sends the wagons, I want you to come down to see me, that's because I have nothing to be embarrassed about. Ich bin derselbe Yosef. I'm the same Yosef. I'm the Yosef HaTzadik. And I'm not embarrassed for you to come to see how I live. And that's why Yaakov was consoled, Vayar es ha'agoles, that Yosef saw, that Yosef said.